Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Zero Code. Today, we've got a true creative genius on the show, Chris Ebeling. Chris is a freaking mastermind in the world of animation, visual effects, and digital arts. He's worked on some of the biggest Hollywood blockbusters like the Lego Movie, The Great Gatsby, and Gods of Egypt. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Not only that, but he's also a leader in education and mentoring. He has helped shape the future of the industry by building the Animal Logic Academy at the University of Technology at Sydney, Australia, and inspired a new generation of artists and innovators through its first-of-its-kind Master of Animation and Visualization program. But Chris isn't content just with these academic endeavors. He has also founded his own creative studio, Virtually Human Studios, where he's pushing the boundaries of Web3 and exploring the potential of mixed reality and data. You might know one of his most successful projects, Zed-Run. Zed-Run is one of the top 10 games that have ever been created in the play to earn, now switching to play and earn model that is NFT powered. This guy is constantly innovating and pushing the limits of what's possible. I'm really excited to talk to Chris and pick his brain about his creative process, the future of interactive media, and all sorts of crazy stuff. So grab your coffee, kick back, and join me in welcoming Chris Ebeling to the podcast. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you with me on the Zero Code podcast. We've been talking since last year, I think, around May time when Zero Code graduated from the accelerator. So happy to have you. So maybe you can just tell the audience about who you are. Who is Chris Ebeling?
Yeah, sweet, man. And thanks for having me. And yeah, I think we've had a really great, start of a great friendship from the early May last year to where we are today. And yeah, let's help each other build some exciting things. So yeah, my name is Chris Ebeling. I am, I'm an old savvy digital artist, I guess from, many years of experience in film, games, and, your standard Web 2 applications and television and entertainment. And since then, I've moved on to form and help co-found Virtually Human Studio, which is an entertainment studio focused on Web3 entertainment, where we've created a ecosystem. You can call it a game, we call it an ecosystem. It's a bit of both, using blockchain technology, which is called Zed-Run. And Zed-Run is it's a digital horse racing ecosystem powered by blockchain, so users can digitally own horses. They can breed them, they can sell them, they can race them, they can win. And it's really about democratizing racehorse ownership in a digital world and giving people true ownership and the feeling of what it's like to build a championship stable.
Wow, that's like one of the most ambitious projects that I know of on the Polygon blockchain. I remember it was featured among the top 10 until now, I think, right? In terms of partnerships. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've been around for 4 years. We were one of the first OG play, back then you called it play to earn, but now we call it play and earn. And we would like to actually move into the acronym of free to play and earn. That's our focus this year. And we can touch on that and many more things, of course, because, in these last 4 years, we've learned a lot. We've learned what we've done wrong, and we've also learned what works. And, I'm really passionate about this space, and I'm passionate about talking about our learnings, our knowledge, our experience, and hopefully people can learn from, mistakes we've made, and also because it's going to take all of us to build this Web3 monster, which is on the horizon.
Fantastic. So I would like to get to know you a little bit better. So gaming, how did you get into it? Have you always been a gamer?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was fortunate enough that my dad, when we were young, had an interest in technologies, and so I remember fondly. I grew up in Copenhagen, Denmark, and that's where we live now. I've just recently moved back from Australia. And I remember fondly we drove down to Germany once, and in that trip we bought a Nintendo, an 8-bit Nintendo, right? I would have been 8 or 9. My big brother would have been, 11, 12. My little brother would have been 3 or 4. But, bringing this machine into the household was huge. And then fondly we remember playing, Zelda, Ice Climber. And my dad just sitting there watching us kids play, and he loves it to this day still, watching us play video games because he's intrigued by it. And he's 80 now, and I am. So this is wow. what is it? Without giving too much away, it's like 33 years ago, right? And then, ever since that, Nintendo came into our living room. You know, we also had the little Game Boys, like, and the little Nintendos, you know, the flip top ones when we went on road trips. And so it was always kind of inspired, and gaming was always part of my life. And then we used to, then, you know, the Nintendo graduated to I had an Amiga, if you remember the Commodore Amiga, and I also had an old Commodore 64. And so every time a new kind of technology came out, I would always want to get it and want to try it. I'll trade in the old one and, you know, save up money to buy the new one. And so I graduated from Nintendo to, you know, Commodore 64 at the same time, to Amiga 500, which was amazing. Still one of the best computers ever, I reckon. To, you know, Super Nintendo. We kind of stayed in the Nintendo way. Never had a Sega until the Sega Dreamcast, which is...
The Dreamcast came through, right?
The Dreamcast.
So my older sibling, he was the Sega school. I was on the Nintendo school. I was Nintendo obsessed. So, the Dreamcast, that was revolutionary. First CD-ROM console. And
just the games were good. And the way also the joypad, you had that kind of little Tamagotchi sitting in it as well. Like, they really pushed the limits with that. And I think it's one of the most underrated consoles, to be honest. I don't think it got marketed well enough. But yeah, and then you know, then the PlayStation 1, right? Then, whoa, what the hell? And what's happening here? And, you know, Nintendo 64, of course, the cartridge. Still, I think that's, if I have to name like the GOAT console, I think I'll go with the 64. Just because of GoldenEye and NBA Jam, you know, Mario Kart 64, you know, Mario 64, like that 3-dimensional look and feel. That was big time. So
it was just fun games.
Yeah.
Like Nintendo is addictive and fun games. Like GoldenEye, I remember that game. I remember I actually won that game in a Pokemon card challenge that I had in school. Yeah. So this is what I remember how kids were trading video games.
Well, there's a few things here, like a true story. I used to work for Club Nintendo back in the day. So back in the day, we didn't have internet, right? And you used to have to call up and figure out how to get through a level in Zelda, or where to find the next Pokemon, right? And so we would be on the other end, me and a mate, and we would answer those calls, and we would have a database here in Copenhagen, and we would answer these calls. And so we also, you know, were in magazines and got interviewed on TV. There was Nintendo, and this is that's still the best job to date. I mean, I've done some pretty cool jobs, I think, but that kind of being in that digital space, being a part of something like the Nintendo, which is it is a family computer, right? Like in Japan, they call it the Super Famicom, right? So it's the family console, and they always design with the family in mind, and how you can bring the family together around this machine versus this, you know, secluded gaming, which is more used to today, you know, people getting lost in their little metaverses or whatnot. So, yeah.
Oh my God, I never actually made the connection. You're the first to actually bring it up in such, because I remember the first console that I had was called the Family, and was by Nintendo. And I never really put two and two together until now. I'm like,
there you go.
Eureka.
Yeah, Eureka moment.
That's why they took that path.
Yeah. And you can see with everything they do now. We have a Switch as well, because again, like me and my I've got 3 kids now. I've got 2 15-year-old daughters and a soon-to-be 10-year-old son, and we'll get around and we'll play some, you know, what's it called, Bomberman, or we'll play some Mario Kart, right? And it's fun, and it's a way where we can kind of bond over digital board. And even better, actually, the one Mario Party. Have you tried that? The board game?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. So now I kind of get the differentiation. So as an avid gamer, then I have to ask this question. I think it wouldn't be right if I didn't ask it. What is your favorite game of all time?
Man, I mean, I've got a lot. So Amiga 500 days, right? Like something called Sensible Soccer, which was amazing. A game called Cannon Fodder. I mean, I can just remember using hours and hours in those games. It's from Sensible Games. Then moving on into like the Nintendo, Zelda, Legend of Zelda. I mean, all of them, from the 8-bit to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on the 64, to the Breath of the Wild now, which is it's still stunning. Like, you load that up now, it's like narrative, storytelling, world building, adventure. It just hits on all the, you know, the heartstrings. And then it's not uber violent either. It's just safe for everyone, right? It's not like if you're gonna go and play a game like, you know, Last of Us, which again, amazing game, right? And I like those games too, because I play them with my daughter. So Last of Us, both of them are just incredible. And if you haven't played them, play them and then watch the series like on HBO. Incredible. But things like also Detroit Become Human, which was this kind of choose your own adventure. I love that kind of evolution of games where you have agency and choice, and what you choose decides the outcome. There's too many. I mean, and then going way back to the PC days, right? Like you got Prince of Persia, like that was revolutionized. Or even like Monkey Island, right? If you played the LucasArts films.
Oh my God, yes. I'm obsessed.
Yes.
I've played them multiple times over. I've finished each one of them.
They're insane. And you had like 8 discs or 16 discs to get through, right? And if disc number 12 didn't work, which sometimes happened, then
Yep.
So yeah, so many good games. But even before that, there was Police Quest and King's Quest, if you remember those. Like, and I think I must have been like 8 years old then as well when those were around.
I remember King's Quest.
Yeah, and you'd write, and you'd have to type in and see if you got it right. And you know, as a kid, you'd write all sorts of things and couldn't get it right. And again, like these are the days before internet, so when you were stuck, you were stuck. So yeah.
And this is when you had to call someone like you guys.
That's it.
I'm stuck at this level.
Well, again, an evolution of technology, right? There's no need for that guy anymore because everybody can just look it up. Like ChatGPT's got the answer now, right?
Exactly. I remember there was a kid in my high school who his older brother kind of started like at the dawn of the internet. That was like late 90s, right? And he created the first website in Arabic where he gave like, you know, walkthrough guides. And then he started doing his own magazine where he was like publishing it and selling it. And each week you would get like the latest games and he would have the walkthroughs from the week before.
Amazing.
So it was a really incredible time, right? Like,
And we just have to adapt now because of evolution, the revolution of technology or the evolution of technology changes, and we got to just go with it.
So this is a good segue. So let's talk about that, you know, leap and revolution in the creation of games. I was talking to you the other day, and you shared with me, like, you know, we hear about ChatGPT everywhere, and we hear about all these AI applications, and people are afraid that it's going to, like, replace creatives like yourself, right, from jobs. But in the other hand, I've seen you actually take command of those and improve productivity. So tell me, how do you see, you know, these technologies impacting the field, and how are you using them?
And I think we have a right to be scared. Like people doubted the internet when that first came out, right? There were articles saying it's just going to be a fad. What is this thing and whatever, right? And it's been like that all the time. And if you look, I always like to look backwards to understand where we're going and moving forwards, and also to understand how resilient we are and adaptive we are as humans. For example, you know, when the tractor came along and started plowing the fields, then we didn't need to be 12 people out there. We only needed one guy driving a tractor, right? And the same with the calculator coming along, and now we don't have to do, you know, advanced math because it does it for us. Well, yeah, these are tools to empower us for productivity, right? And so on. So ChatGPT and Midjourney and like DALL-E and Stable Diffusion and all these amazing AI applications that are, and there's way more. Every week new ones are popping up, right? I think they're tools, and they're tools that we should use and we should learn to use. Naturally, there are some morals and ethics and regulations that we need to figure out in terms of copyright infringement and all that. But depends on how you use it, right? So an example I gave you, I was doing a world building course for Unreal Engine, like a fellowship, which is a 3-week intense course where you actually you get trained in the engine even more so. Like I use Unreal, but this was just intense training on a higher level. And in that time, you build a world and you have to tell a story. So I used ChatGPT and Midjourney as well to kind of help me, you know, bounce ideas. I would write a story in ChatGPT and get it to kind of feed it back to me in a different way, and then, you know, write it like a J.R. Tolkien would, and it will do it, and it will formulate it in this different way that you wouldn't necessarily do straight away. You could get to that point, but it would just take me weeks of writing to get to that point, right? Instead, I can do it in like a back and forth session in 10 minutes, right? So similarly with Midjourney for concept art, right? You kind of have a description of a room in your head. Instead of me sitting down and actually drawing it myself, which could take up to a week of iteration and whatnot, I can put in the description in Midjourney and have a session on over half an hour bouncing ideas back and forth and keep iterating on this concept to give me these beautiful images. So you know, it might seem like cheating, but it's actually, you know, if time is a valuable resource, which time is, I think, number one valuable resource, I think you put your time first. I think you put health second, health, mental, physical, and I think you put family and friends and social third, and then you put money forth, right? If that's the way you, I mean, that order is super important. And I think time equates to so much. So if we can spend less time doing one thing, we can spend more time doing, you know, other stuff, you know, and as I've, you know, we've noticed with Corona and COVID, you know, time waits for nobody. You never know when the next lockdown's happening, and hence we moved to Copenhagen for the time being.
You know, after I saw you work and you told me how you're using AI, I've kind of dismissed it as a creative, as a professional for one reason, and I'm dead wrong. I discovered that yesterday. The reason I've dismissed it is probably my ego, because I'm like, one of my skills is writing. You know, I went to law school, so I had to write a lot. And after that, I really picked up reading and writing. So I've always been a good writer. So I write a lot of the content that we publish. I write a lot of the content for social media. And it's usually, you know, I have this hubris that, oh, a machine cannot do what I do. That's one, I think. And two, I'm like, oh, I'm going to waste more time trying to correct a machine's outputs than actually building it myself, until I tried ChatGPT. And I'm like, let me try this out. And it was like just instantaneous. Like I'm still like feeding in a lot of my text, right? A lot of my thoughts, my ideas, but I'm getting faster outputs, faster, you know, randomizations that I could never thought of, right? So suddenly, like exactly what you said, what used to take me like 2 full days to do, I'm doing in 2 hours. I'm like, this is amazing.
That's amazing, right?
Less strain on my brain, more time for me to do more stuff. And the strain that, you know, the creative outputs like really mentally stresses you out 100%. More than anything else. I think there's no other activity that stresses you out as much as mental, you know, creative
Raising
outputs.
kids, but that's another one.
Well, you also have to be very creative with that,
you do.
right?
Amen. You have to be creative all the time. But to your point, point there, it's a tool, right? And I think what you said there was super important, and is you're feeding it. You're still controlling it, right? Just as you would control a pen on paper or a podcast with your voice. You know, take a microphone, for example, the microphone you have in front of you. You could use that for the world of good or the world of evil. It all comes down to you who's controlling it and what you say and what narrative you want to put out there, right? And how you want to resonate with the people listening. So technology is technology. It's always the humans behind technology is where the morals and ethics come into play. And I think that's super important, because technology is usually built for the greater good, but bad players will come in and misuse it and do whatever they want, and that's the humans. That's not the tech.
Yeah, but it's incredible. So I'll have to give you, you know, kudos for that, and thank you for inspiring me to actually give it a try. Now you've changed my life, man.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, excellent. And there'll be more. Like every week, there's something new. I mean, it's going fast, and I think that's where I kind of get scared. Is like, how can I keep up? So I'm always spending at least half an hour on LinkedIn a day. Or Twitter, these are various reasons. Twitter, I'm doing for the ZRun community mostly, and trying to follow around and also the NFT community, because Twitter is usually where that's at. You know, the degens and the crypto savvy. But then LinkedIn is the professional community in terms of tech as well, right? And there's a lot more blockchain talk and metaverse talk coming into LinkedIn now. But the AI scene is where I'm getting a lot of my information. I'm following the right people. And looking at what they're posting, and every day, every week, there's something new, man, and it's kind of going, oh my god, like, so.
Yeah, I've seen some wild stuff with animations now. I love video making in general. I film a lot and I like to edit. So now, like, there's like, oh, turn to your films into like animations where they just layer it with different filters that you can inspire from PNGs or whatever. Yeah, it's crazy.
Did you see that Indiana Jones one? With the guy, he kind of replicates it, and I think it's stable diffusion video kind of AI work. It's incredible, but that's the thing, and I think that's the beauty of it, and this is, I think, one of the things in terms of Web3 and the metaverse and what we want to do is we want to empower creativity. It's one of the fun, like, I have these 3 pillars that I've come to kind of love, that I think any Web3 strategy should have, right? And one of them is empowering creativity. The other one is fostering inclusivity. And then driving prosperity. I think, and you can break those down into whatever way you want. There's layers beneath each of those pillars. But if you have those 3 foundations, I think you're going to be a very successful product, business, or you know, consultant or approach to it. So amazing.
So let's talk about that then. Let's talk about Web3 intersections with gaming. How did you get into that? What was the moment you realized Web3 is going to be that
Crypto
bridge to
kitties.
Zedrun for
Crypto kitties. Yeah, Crypto kitties was interesting, and that's what kind of spawned the idea of Zedrun. So Zedrun was my co-founder, Chris Laurent, who came up with the initial concept, right? He was working with horse racing at the time. He was living in a horse racing area, working with another company, and he was doing some, blockchain crypto research for another company. And in that blockchain research company, he came across CryptoKitties as well, but then also saw in these real world horse racing what the kind of fees they were getting for breeding, right? Like $15,000 to breed with my horse, right? So then two and two together in terms of, okay, CryptoKitties, there you can breed cats, but they do nothing. They're just pretty cats. If we did this with horses, you could race them, you could breed more, you could sell, then we can start emulating the real world horse racing industry. We can start to democratize it. And so then when he had that idea, him and Rob Sala, who I'd worked with in the past, so the longest story is we actually worked on a game concept together. This isn't our first rodeo. We had a game called Sumo Boy, which we tried to get Kickstart funding for, which, kind of didn't happen, but it almost got made into a movie and TV show through Hollywood, right? So we've had this adventure and history together. We then formed and went our separate ways. I went into emerging technologies at the university. They kept doing other things in the entrepreneurial space. But when this idea came on, and then they needed three-dimensional, gamified, emerging tech, vision and creativity and execution, they knocked on the door, and we put together a prototype. At that time, it was around 2016. I've just gotten into crypto. CryptoKitties was around 2017. We just believed in it. We just believed that this is a way that, again, as a gamer, I've played so many games. Let's take NBA 2K, for example. I'm a sucker for that because I love basketball, and I'll buy the new season every time. And every new season I have to start over. So every 11 to 12 months I have to start replaying this game in a new narrative. And it's like, come on, man, I'm getting old. But I still do it because I want to see the new graphics, I want to play the new teams, blah, blah, blah. But if you could then carry on or own the items that you actually unlocked, or own, all that time you put in would transfer to digital assets that I can prove that I own, that then, because through ownability, have, different values depending on the market and depending on the rarity, then now I'm getting something more out of it than just escapism and entertainment. I'm getting this extra layer of utility and opportunity, which is the driving prosperity part in that pillar, right? Like there's an opportunity to prosper beyond just escapism and entertainment. And I think we're going to see that across not just games. We're going to see that in films as well. Like it's not unknown to own a prop or a jacket of certain actor who wore in a movie. Well, in an animated movie now, you'll be able to maybe fractionalize own, maybe we can own this guy, or like he, or Sully from Monsters Inc., which he almost looks like, the Cookie Monster, but probably inspired from that. Own the background.
I actually never saw the connection, but yeah.
It's funny now that you look at it, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of cute. He's my buddy.
Now I cannot unsee it.
Yeah. For anybody who's listening, I'm just listing up a little toy Cookie Monster, which is hilarious. He's my friend. Yeah.
But very cool. Really incredible. Wow. Zedrun. Tell us.
Yeah, okay.
How does that work?
Yeah. So Zedrun, I mean, so with all that said, digital ownership, then, taking a sport like horse racing, which, I mean, dare I say, I think if I talk to my 9-year-old son, and I asked him what's horse racing about, I think he would be able to say, well, horses race and one of them wins, right? And so it's a simple concept in that construct, right? However, so it's not taking like an advanced game like Fortnite or Roblox, which is multiple games within a universe. It's taking something which is really simple to understand. It's a 300-year-old sport, the king of sports, and then and using this new technology to then trial and actually test what we're creating, which is a framework for digital asset ownership, right? And a blueprint for success. So, so once the way it started, to be honest, was we didn't even have a game. Again, like many NFT projects start, or like a Kickstarter project starts in the Web2 space. It's speculation, it's a roadmap, it's the promise of something. And so we created some, just flat 2D images of horses, vectors, And we started selling them off with the promise of a game, and they started to sell. And when we saw them reselling on the secondary market, again, where you then also get royalties tied to the smart contract, which is beautiful, right? Perpetuity. And then we kind of got, okay, there's something in this. Now, if we can make a game where they can use these horses, a breeding barn where they can breed more horses, then it's still a very simple concept on the top layer. It's not like adding guns in Fortnite or armor in Elder Scrolls or whatever. You can imagine all the different NFTs. And then we started building that out and just testing it. And then, of course, we were very no risk, no reward. We took the chance, and the timing was right. We were one of the, if not the first DApp on Polygon when they reached out. We joined forces with them. And then, that time, NBA Top Shots was pretty big, and Beeple was big. Beeple was doing his 5,000 days of summer. And so there was all these eyes in that space, and then they went, wait, Top Shot, I can own a card, and I can't really do anything with it. Over here, I can own a horse, and I can race it, this utility term. And so then we just grew a community, a passionate community, and they're still passionate to this date. And we kind of foster them, again, inclusivity, like, they can reach out to me anytime or any of the other founders. I'm on Twitter chatting with them, get into as many Twitter spaces with them. I get a lot of DMs and I'm chatting. And so we're very approachable as founders. And I think that's really important because you're building alongside them and you're building with them, right? And back to like that first foundation, which is empowering creativity, we want them to build with us and for us. So I think it's really important. And this is what you can learn from playing Fortnite or looking at the history of Fortnite or Roblox, right? Where Fortnite grew exponentially is when they got Fortnite Creative going, and the story goes is that they saw people playing the game, but they used to just hang out in the lobbies, right? And when they saw that, they were like, wow, shit, people just want to hang out. Cool, let's give them some tools. They can hang out. They can build their own lobbies. They can build their own games. Exponential growth, because now you're not just one sole creator. You're letting everybody create and build in the ecosystem around you. So we've done that as well. People can tap into our API and build systems and data sets so they can kind of be more skillful in the gaming. And we have bigger plans for that as well in terms of, designing your own horse skins or your own racetracks and being able to kind of, again, create, which is a very Web 2 thing, and creator economy is very known. But then on top of that, if you add that layer of ownership, then it's now you own, you create and you own. And so the prosperity comes back and is shared with you as the creator and not just the company, wow. Right? So that's the thinking. That's the way to approach Web3 for me.
I mean, this is really incredible. I'm looking at it, to understand that the origins of this concept comes deeply rooted in the gaming industry is news to me. I was not really aware of the Fortnite story.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm a marketing guy. I'm a digital marketing guy. I come from e-commerce background, B2B tech background. Yeah. So listening now from the gaming perspective, and this is what attracted me to Web3 as well, the idea that you can open a community to co-create together, really like it's not crowdsourcing. What do you call it? Mind sourcing? Crowd mind sourcing?
Yeah, it's called, I think it's called empowering creativity or co-creation.
Co-creation, yeah, exactly.
Co-creation is
what a concept.
Yeah. And it's not old because like the simplest terms is starting a lobby in a game, like giving users the ability to start a lobby to bring in their friends, right? Then the exponential growth of being able to do this with your friends is key. So that's something, again, if anybody's out there and plays Zed, I was on a Twitter space yesterday, but a bit of alpha there is like we're looking at doing that, and we called it a working title was exhibition racing, but it's going to be called I believe arcade racing. And what that means is you can go in for free. You won't own the horse, but you can just start a race and bring people in and just have that ability to get, time to fun, get on the track with some mates, try before you buy, right? Get a taster. If this is for you, then through the experience of user experience, right? UX, then educate them on, okay, well, here, if you do it this way, you can earn XP points. These XP points can translate to NFTs or your first token. So, right, then you create a circular economy within your ecosystem to then give that free, or to ideate and execute on that free to play and earn philosophy, right?
So a free entry point then, and you just have to play, and the more you play, the more you earn, basically. So,
And where have we seen that before? On any mobile game, right? Web2 free-to-play mobile game. Candy Crush does it. Subway Surfers does it. Fortnite does it, right? It's free.
Yeah, but these guys are like a freemium model where it doesn't matter how much. Like, yeah, you'd have to play a lot for you to get any of these skins or perks. Otherwise, you can buy your way through. Right?
That's where it happens, right? Microtransactions, or they call them micro, but I've spent more money on Fortnite for my son than any other game in the world.
Yeah,
easily.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's about finding that balance. Like, it's not easy when it's now. NFTs have a value, and or if you're using tokens and how that's going to work, right? So you got to figure out, and that's just part of the strategy. You got to give a token a utility in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
You can only unlock X, Y, and Z if you stake your tokens or have this token or buy this pass, which you can only buy with a token, right? So you got to tie value back into the different things, so it doesn't become this kind of pump and dump, and it loses its value, because that's the most dangerous thing that could happen. So it's
So this is a follow-up question on that. So when we're dealing with NFTs, we're dealing with tokens. Tokens can be used as securities because you can trade them outside the game as well, right? So what kind of complexities a business like yours would have to go through? And like, is there a lot of regulations? How do you? I just take us through your experience.
Well, there's just a lot of regulations, and you could imagine, also being horse racing, what other regulations that imply. So from the very early days, of course, we're dealing with NFTs, tokens. We're dealing with digital asset ownership. It's something that's very new, and then we're dealing with horse racing, which is a very heavy in terms of a gambling market, right? But from the very early days, we've made a decision that we aren't that, and we've also created the game and the ecosystem so that we aren't that. Like, you're not placing bets on Zed Run. You're actually just you're buying in so you can race. You're not betting on anybody else. You're not putting any money on anybody else. It just has a cost tied to it to be involved in certain races and in certain tournaments, right? And and then also the game of skill point of view, right? Like, we also had to be very clear on what the strategy is for a gamer, and the data's out there, right? If you know what you're doing and if you're skillful in your choices, you can actually be a much better racer. And again, there's loads of data with stables and players out there who are doing that, who are way more skillful than just throwing random horses into a race, right? Chances are, which is what I do, because I don't really know how to play my own game. I like to put my horses into a race, and I know I've got two horses that I know are really good at a certain distance, so they're the ones that I like to put in. But even then, I'm not very good at my own game, which is cool. But to see other people be really successful in it, that's really awesome to see, and that's really important that there is skill involved in these games, because otherwise it's just the danger is that it's just random, right? And that's not what it is.
Okay.
So. Yeah.
And so what value does NFTs play versus NFTs instead of a Web2 system, like a centralized system versus...
Yeah, well, the value is that you're giving people ownership of the game, right? And whether you are, some games will create DAOs where you can actually vote, and the more you own, whether it's a token or the more you own of certain parts of the game, whether it's they are all tokens at the end of the day, but if it's digital assets or if it's tokens, then you have a higher vote, and then you can vote to the policies and the next updates of the game and where the focus should be and you lay of the land. Now, that's a dangerous thing too, because you give someone else the power of your game, well, they can just run with it and change it and make it something else. So I think there's ways to go around that, and we considered it in the past, but we haven't done that yet because we want to be in control. Like, we feel like we're still in beta, man. Even after 4 years, we're trying to figure out the true balance of this game, and the focus now is on growth and onboarding the masses. And again, that's the second pillar, which is fostering inclusivity, which means free to play and earn, right? Like, we need to make this not a token gated game, not a walled off garden where only certain people of a certain, with certain spend can play. We need to make it accessible for everyone, but then also have proper segmentation within the game. So if you are one of the best, you go up in the big leagues, right? Just like the NBA, I like to use an analogy. Like, I couldn't play in the NBA. I wish I could, but I could probably play in third division, maybe on a good day, right? And so that's a place where I can maybe shine versus, there's a second division, then there's Gatorade, and then there's the NBA, right, where they shine. So you got to just have that proper segmentation, and then of course a proper, incentives to want to be in certain places, right? Like, where do all the sponsorship and where does all the championship money go? Goes in the big league, and then the next league, the next league, the next league. So you got to kind of create that that hierarchy and that tiered utility. And so for me, if I was coming in at the low end, the goal would be have fun. Of course, fun is first. But then if I wanted to get up there, it would be like winning enough there so I could then afford an asset which can compete there, or trade my horses and trade stables, breed enough, and then work your way up the ladder. And we've seen that as well with players, which is super, super cool.
So as a follow-up question, I just want to check with you. You're an avid game player yourself, big fan of games. And now we get into the NFT intersection with play-to-earn video games or play-and-earn video games. How do you balance between, the money-earning aspect of playing the game versus the enjoyment?
Yeah,
right. Does it become challenging?
Yeah, such a good question and and super. But I think, again, I'd like to look at what we've done in the Web2 space first to learn that, because you've got streamers, right, that play 14 hours a day. Now, if you ask them if they're having fun, I would actually say they're like, nah, it's a grind, dude. It's a grind. But yeah, I'm good at it, and I'm getting all these views, and I'm getting paid for playing games. But it's a grind, right? Like, have they taken the fun out of it? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they just truly do it. Or esports teams. You've seen them when they go head to head in the finals or in the championships of esports. Are they having fun, or are they just competing, right? So it's the same as if I go and play basketball down in the courts, then I can play it for fun. Or if I go into the gym, it tends to get competitive pretty quickly just because of the way I am. but another example is poker. If we're playing poker for matches or matchsticks, I'll go all in when I really wouldn't. Right, I'll bluff more than I really wouldn't. When it's money on the table and if the pot's decent, then I'm a bit more nervous about my moves and stuff. And it depends on the human playing. Like, some people like to jump out of airplanes with parachutes, and some people think that's fun, and some people think that's terrifying, right? So again, human psychology on top of that is a very important thing. But to answer, long story short, that's kind of like just context, I guess. But long story short, that balance is hard, right? Because and that's why play and earn has to be the acronym, not play to earn, because changing it from to being, this is the goal, it's to earn, versus and earn. This is an additive. This is something that you can do if you wish to. And if you want to, it puts the focus back on play. And I think when you're creating entertainment, when you're creating games, fun first, right? There's a metric, again, time to fun, that I love to use, which is how fast can you give someone the pleasure of fun through your game? And that's when you're doing UX and UI. How many clicks do you have to do? And, for anybody who's in the Web3 space for 4 years, how many clicks it takes to get through MetaMask and all that. Like, that's not for everyone, man. So we still have a lot of work to do to take those friction points away with smart UX design and UA design, and bring it back to what we're familiar with in the Web2 space. And then we do the heavy lifting under the hood, right? And then we can introduce players, users to like a vault system where it's like, hey, by the way, you played this game for so long, look what's inside your vault. This is where we carry, you own these things. And then you can show them how they can move things from a vault into their own wallet if you want, or, bring them out and sell them on OpenSea or whatever they want to do, right? Or Blur, whatever the place is to sell for today.
Whatever the marketplace is. Yeah. I heard OpenSea is getting under fire recently because of the royalty fees removal. Has that impacted you guys as well?
It will have some impact, yeah, but not as much. I mean, we really need to get our own marketplace, to be honest, which we're working on as well. But that's not a focus, but it's something we would always want to love. Like, the fact that people come to our website and have to leave it to go get a horse, that's bad UX, right? Like, you don't ever want people to leave your website. So we need to ingrain and have our own marketplace. And that's something that we'll work on and we'll get down the track. But right now, the most important thing is growth, and is that free to play and earn model to bring on users who are the masses, right? Like me and you, we're savvy crypto wallet. We understand it. So we're kind of, and if I go to NFT LA or NFT NYC or wherever and I talk, I'm preaching mostly to the choir, to savvy people. We need to go to lifestyle events. We need to go down to the mall down here and talk to people and say, hey, have you owned an NFT? 99% will say, what? What is that? Like, they still won't know. That's how early we are.
It's actually not know. Some of them even have like a toxic kryptonite. Like, they hear the word NFT and they're like, no, scams.
That's the history again. Like I said earlier, there's bad people with good technology, right? And the amount of rug pulls, and then you had FTX and Sam Friedman, right? So people are getting hustled, and so it gives it a bad name. But remember, people said the same about the internet when it came out, or the smartphone.
Exactly.
What, I need that? No, I got my Nokia, I got my BlackBerry. Okay, where are they today?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, I think this is the problem with both the crypto market and the NFT space. That we equate it with speculative market. In the crypto market, anything that went bad is due to speculation of buying a token for no other purpose for supporting the blockchain or the protocol behind it. You're just buying it so you can sell it for a higher price, and then boom,
of course,
surprise, it crashed. And then the NFT was the same thing. Like, there's a lot of projects that got rugged due to people that just created fictional projects with fictional roadmaps.
So bad.
And just sold out and ran away. Obviously, there's other people that are genuine entrepreneurs that tried to make a project, couldn't raise the amounts that they wanted to raise through the sales, and they ended up having to, switch the lights off like any other business, right? And they were all lumped up as failures, but or frauds. But I think it's a lot more nuanced than that.
100%.
And ultimately, the ones that survived the boom, right? Or what do they call it?
The bear run.
The bear run are going to be the ones who are actually providing real value ultimately.
100%. Yes. And also upfront and out there talking to the people and being transparent and actually, there's levels to transparency, right? Like, we're not going to give away our trade secrets and what's coming up next. We also have to make sure we're business savvy and smart about what we say and what we don't say. But at the same time, we're approachable. I've been asked many, many hard questions where you can easily just say, I can either confirm or deny that. There's ways to deflect and talk around it, but also showing sincerity and humility and actually human-esque traits in it. Like, we're not here to, again, like, for us, we want to create an ecosystem on those three pillars. And driving prosperity for all who choose to and want to be a part of it, yes. And if you put more time into Zed Run, you will get rewarded more, just like anything in life. If I put more time into cooking, I'm going to make a better meal than you. If I put more time into my free throws, chances are I'm going to shoot better free throws than you, right? Like, it's just, that's just kind of common. So the people, whoever plays Fortnite the best is going to be the best at Fortnite, right? Like, he's going to be putting more time into it. But so for us, we really want to create this ecosystem. We have high ambitions, and it's, we're on the way. We've been able to partner with some really big brands, and I hope that also shows, trust by confidence, but also that all these other big brands also want to come in and play in this space. And it is about growth and partnering with the likes of Budweiser or NASCAR, and we've got a few other really exciting things coming out, which I will not drop yet again.
Stella Artois.
Well, we had them. We did. That was one of our first, which was awesome, and Atari as well. So we're working with all these amazing brands, but we still need to, of course, execute and cross-pollinate these communities and grow together, right? Where we're educating their people on what Web3 is and the utility behind gamification of Web3, and they're educating us on, who their brands and what their brand is and what they stand for. And of course, the marriage between, the king of beers and the king of sports in the metaverse with Budweiser was one that was, meant to happen, I guess. A no-brainer, they say. But there's so much more to be done there. And I think, podcasts like this as well, and what you're doing, Sanad, and the team, and Ayman, you're educating. And that's really the most important part right now, is that people won't invest time nor money in something they don't have confidence in. Where do you get confidence from? You get that through proper education, and then you get it through experience, right? And so I believe experience is your best teacher, but before you take that step into and experience, you want to have confidence, which comes from education and being actually very sound and having read and done your homework and going, yeah, okay, I believe this is something that I want to try. Then you confidently step into it, and then experience should take you the rest of the way.
Absolutely, I agree with you, man. And I think, one area that I wanted to explore with you as well. You've ran a very successful Web3 project, and the realities of running a Web3 project are quite different than the traditional business, right? We've talked about it. Accountability is key. Transparency is key. Your stakeholders are your consumers.
Yes.
They're kind of like the board, right, of
Yeah.
directors for your company. You have to listen to them. How do you deal with that stress? And you've mentioned different areas that you usually meet with them and talk to them, like Twitter Spaces,
Yeah.
which are very popular in the Web3 community. We have a lot of people in the audience that are not really deep into the Web3 space. So can you run them through your regular channels of communication, and what do you usually, how do these discussions go, and how does it impact your decisions?
Yeah, awesome. I mean, Discord is huge, right? Discord is another big one that I hadn't mentioned, but Discord and Twitter are the two kind of main channels for where we announce things or when we communicate. Of course, we're on Instagram and we're doing the marketing stuff, but looking at the stats and the data, which is key to anything we do, you got to look at the data points and the impressions and is there an uptick when we do this, or is there a downtick when we do that, and really make data-driven decisions is a very and that's nothing new. It's the same. And I think marketing is you don't have to change a marketing strategy to Web3. You just have to evolve it, if you know what I'm saying. Like the stuff in marketing you're doing traditional marketing Web2 is still what we need to do. We just have to add the layer of utility that Web3 gives you as well. So it's not like it's not like it's changing and replacing ways that we've done for years. It's just adding layers of utility on top of it and opportunity, right? So long story short, to answer your question, I mean, we do our emails. So if you sign up, you get your weekly email, or sometimes twice a week if there's a big announcement. Discord is where we're vocal, and for those who don't know what Discord is, it's a very common gamer channel where people go and hang out, and when they're playing games or are part of a project, it gets used on many ways. So Discord is huge. That's probably where we announce things first, because we also want people to come in and join the community there. And then Twitter is more for the more vast, the greater community. And then it is about just communication. The stresses of it is that you're building alongside, like the product's not finished, and you've got people invested time and with, purchasing some horses and putting and they have this expectation of, I need something back for my time put in, right? So it's, again, the speculation and the expectations are hard, but you just got to be strong at communicating. And I think we've done a really good job of that. I think we're really good at setting the record straight by going, hey, this is the plan, right? But we need to do these steps. And once you see, and let us just get the pieces of the puzzle together, because it takes time and testing and more time and more testing and more iteration. But once we have the structure in place and these pieces and this foundation of a proper like game loop and ecosystem and a circular economy within, then we truly believe that we can create an ecosystem that is going to grow and expand for all. Everybody's going to be able to partake, either big or small, and what you put in is what you get out, right? And so, I think the main one is that we're still building alongside your community. I think that's the biggest change, because usually when you develop a game, you put it, you work, and then you put out a demo or a beta or an alpha, right? And then you get feedback, and then you work, and then you put out the final game, right? And then you're still just iterating patches along the way, but it's very linear, whereas this is kind of constant and with people in your ear who are your community is everything, right? Like they're your user base. However, you also really kind of build up a skill of, in the early days when I was getting DMs and being tagged in things and getting a lot of, love, but a lot of hate, it wears on you. It wears on all of us. But I think you quickly kind of figure out what it really means. Like, yes, I understand that you're angry because you're expecting this, and that's one user type. And other users are like, no, we get it. It's going to take this time. I can't wait to see what you do. So again, it's humans behind technology. You know, they can put a tweet out, which is beautiful and makes you feel really good. And they can put one out, which makes you feel bad. But you got to just learn to deal with that and not take it personally, to be honest. Because I think at the end of the day, you know, you're trying to build something special and something for everyone. And that's, again, those pillars of empowering creativity, fostering inclusivity, driving prosperity. If your mind's on that and that's your goal, then I think you'll be fine.
Any early moments that you remember when that first started happening? You started getting a lot of heat or love, and what were you doing? Were you like one of those people that would like write long responses?
No,
think about it, and you spend day or
yeah, talk to my wife about it, talk to my friends about it. You know, like kind of reflect. Yeah, I mean, I had people like death threats and shit like that, like because people were just so upset about some of the things that we did, and I thought, you know, that's extreme. Not that I believed it, but they would say some really nasty things. But then there were some people, you know, who come and say reversely. So it's all about balance, right? It's the yin and the yang, you know, the light and the darkness. And the people who are upset is because in the early days we were doing these drops, right? Like the drops were big, and our drops would sell out. And even our drops would sell out, but our systems would crash. Like our drop mechanics we're not a drop machine. We're building a game, and now we had to figure out and build a mechanic so we could drop horses and make it fair. And some people misused the system, and some people, you know, were in there. And this was before Polygon as well. So when you had to, you know, gas fees grew exponentially. The more traffic there was, the bigger the gas fee, and people would lose gas fees and blah, blah, blah. But this, again, I hate to say it, like, we were very upfront about the education side of what can happen, right? And you'd seen it in all these other drops as well. So if you're going to go in there, you got to know that it's like going, so my analogy was this. You've bought a pickaxe and you're going into a mine to mine for gold. There's a chance you're going to come out with a broken pickaxe and no gold, right? Yeah. But there's a chance you're going to come out with a broken pickaxe and gold. So the pickaxe is a resemblance of gas fees, and the gold is a resemblance if you got lucky on the drop or not. So, and those were the early days too, right? So technology, even 4 years ago, was so slow and just not up to speed. And look at us now. Now we can mint things on the fly, and you know. Yeah. Zero code, man. Let's go, right? You can empower people to do it themselves. So that's
exactly. I mean, that's our mission. But here's the unique thing that I really find that is amazing, and you know, time to feedback is absolutely zero, right? And this is an immense power. Yes, it could be stressful on an individual. That's why I understand a lot of creators who began a project and like dropped out after the heat wave came, especially after the Luna collapse and FTX. You know, the market was like hemorrhaging cash and people were fudding, as we say in the industry, right? Like everyone was like, getting quite crazy. You said, like, I've heard people getting death threats as well. Yeah. That was, you know, people lost a lot of money, you know, so I do get that, and people were quitting, but the people that are going to be resilient are obviously the ones who have to overcome all this hardship and still come out from the other side saying, hey, we delivered on our promises. Yeah. Here's our projects. We've done it anyways. But for brands, it's a superpower, because if I'm a brand that is about to launch a product, I can actually get zero time to feedback from consumers, right? Like in a closed settings, right? Like, as you said, like test trial runs of a product. Let's see what our customers say. They will give you the feedback immediately because they're invested, and then you iterate and you make something better, and so on and so forth. And I feel like, go on. Sorry.
So no. I was going to say, like, the thing is, you're building next to the community who are your users, and you're not finished. So they are, in fact, and I don't like this word, but they are guinea pigs, right? They are testing the product live constantly. And we're making changes on the fly to kind of adhere to feedback that we're getting on the fly. And we're trying to make the best. And sometimes you get it right and sometimes you get it wrong. And the weeks we get it right, you get praised. And the weeks you get it wrong, what are you doing? You're killing the product. And they got to understand, like the ones that understand the process are the ones who can step back and go, this is part of the process. This is how it's done. It's iterate, it's feedback, it's iterate. As long as we're listening and not just going down that hallway, just guns blazing without the thought of stopping up, thinking, reflecting, and then listening to feedback, and then moving left versus moving right. That's the key. So yeah, sorry, you just triggered me.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and it's good that you jumped on it. Then a follow up question to what you just said. How do you filter out this feedback? Because, like as you said, like sometimes it's not necessarily with the right feedback. It depends on how big the pool of audience you're like asking, and
what's the sample size? What's the sample size?
Yeah,
and that sample size is key, right? And so you also got to understand the human psychology. Like I said, somebody might, there's squeaky wheels out there that have a lot of following, and they can keep saying what they want to say, and they can try to provide FUD. You got to ignore some of it, really. But if the same, like again, sample size, and this is from my days of animation as well and making movies and games, is if you go into a room and there's 100 people and you're showing your work, and 5 of them say, that, the blink there is a bit off, that's 5 out of 100. I'm not, then I put that note, but it's down here. It's like, okay, I'll revisit that. But if 95 say, yo, that the way he turns it doesn't feel right, the weight's off or whatever, the glare, the facial expression, I'm not feeling it. I don't feel that emotion. If 95 out of 100 say it, then you're wrong. Like, you better listen to the data, right? So again, sample size, and then also what percentage of the sample size is saying what is really how you listen to data. And you can still overrule it. You can still go, okay, if it's a 50-50 or 60-40, then you can go with your gut, and then you're just accountable for your actions, and you take accountability, and you back it up.
You gave me an amazing idea, by the way. Okay. This could be a spin-off startup or product.
Okay.
Right?
What are we doing?
Product is that, so you create a Telegram channel, right, for feedback, right? So like once you release something, and then you get all the users that are authorized still can gate that channel, right? So only people that are part of the sample can comment, and they send you all that stuff, but no human should read it, right? Feed it into an AI that learns to assess sentiment, and they can break it down by percentages on the decisions to take and the suggestions that comes through. Because that's the most painful part for me, is to actually go through like hundreds, if not even thousands of like feedback points. Yeah,
bro, you're gonna want to cut that out of this podcast so you can go and be first.
Go and build it first. But honestly, it's a fantastic tool. Like if I can like do it like so objectively and away from humans' emotions, just like really kind of figure out, is this guy a troll or is he genuine?
Exactly.
And then if it's troll, just discount it.
Yeah, there's some amazing tools out there. I had a chat with some people last week. I forget what their names are, but I'll put you in touch with them at some point, because what they were able to do is they're able to survey the market. We can look at on-chain data, but also off-chain data, and they brought it together, and then they can go after and actually, highlight users who would be more, more into our game. So we could start targeting versus geolocation, what they hold in their wallets, because it's all there on the blockchain, right? All this information's there. So they're able to suck all that data out and create more advanced data metrics to kind of make decisions behind it. So, stuff like that is just fascinating, man. But it is like, data is key. Like, if people don't like your movie, they will tell you. And if people, Rotten Tomatoes, how many times do you look at a movie and people say something, and then you go to Rotten Tomatoes and you see it's got a 20 out of 100, you go, I don't think I'm going to waste my time, because that, 5,000 people have said this, To
be honest with you, I'm a bit skeptical of Rotten Tomatoes, because I always go to IMDb to double check. If they both say it sucks, then I'm like, sure.
That's
because
on-chain and off-chain.
Right. It's amazing. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are growing. And I think that the platforms you were mentioning, they're calling them now ORMs, so like owner relationship managers, right? And there's a lot of great startups building like these analytic tools, and basically it kind of maps out if this email address is registered to a wallet and whether it's registered to the same social media account, and then it can do like these mapping out of individuals, right? It's cool, again, like Web2 marketing tech is gonna evolve to Web3 marketing tech or something in between, in the middle.
Of course.
But data points are everything. Yeah.
And like you said, it's nothing new. It's identifying your user, right? It's identifying, know your audience, figuring out who your customers are, and we've been doing that forever. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So another question that I had for you is regarding why do we see a lot of brands like Budweiser, Stella Artois, Atari, and all these guys, for example, sponsoring projects like Zedron? What do they aim to get out of it, right? Are they looking for the new target audience,
Yeah.
Generation Z? Is that it?
100%. It's new touch points, right? Consumer touch points, cross-pollination of communities. It's also early days, so they're testing the waters, right? And if they see someone like us, Zed, has a strong community and a strong fan base and a strong player base, it's a safer bet, safer test, I guess, safer risk. Like it's mitigated in some ways. And then yeah, it's about providing new touch points for community. I mean, not the thing that's beautiful about, and I mean, look at Starbucks and the Odyssey program, right? Like it's a loyalty program, but now it can provide so much more because it's on the blockchain and you can digitally follow this asset and this ownership, and you can, it's transparent, it's immutable. You can do so much with that power and that technology in terms of customer rewards. And it doesn't have to just be your next coffee's free. It can be, hey, now you're invited to this event, or we partnered up with, so let's say Zed, and now you're invited to this tournament, right? So if you're there for Starbucks, reach out. We've got a Starbucks skin somewhere. No, I'm joking, but you know what I'm saying. So for Budweiser, for example, it is about like giving more. There's entertainment now on another level for the users, for their fan bases, and then it's also an opportunity to have their brand awareness again in the digital space, in this growing new Web3 space, right? In these metaverses. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it's again still early days. We're just getting started. Like I think every week you go on LinkedIn, you see a new brand jumping in with someone, right? So
Yeah. I think one of the areas that a lot of people kind of like miss on, that ultimately if a brand issues you a token and you hold that token, now the brand can easily collaborate with any project that is token based, because all they have to do is create on the token gating mechanism a link to their smart contract, and it says all members of this smart contract, meaning anyone who holds an NFT from that collection, gets that percentage of discount or access to this event and to that event. So collaboration becomes seamless regardless of the tech stack you're using. You don't need to create a coupon code that is special for these customers and then it leaks out on all these other websites, right? Like it's super secure.
Super secure.
You give your fans what they want.
And automated, right? And automated. And it's just easy. And then again, and people don't want to know how it works. They just want to know that it works. And so, yeah, an analogy I've been using lately there is look how many people drive cars, but how many people really know what how an engine works?
How does a combustion engine work?
How does it work? And can they go in and filter out and change the oil in it, or change a light bulb or whatever? Like how many people really I mean, how many people can drive stick, right? So and I think where we're at now is the people who are in this Web3 space, or the play and earn space, they're the savvy ones. They're the people who know what the engine works. They know how to work a wallet. They know how to transfer, ETH to wrapped ETH and back and forth. They're savvy. They're confident. They're educated. They're experienced. What we have to do when we design is to create flawless UX and UI that makes it easy for everyone to do it. And we do the heavy lifting under the hood. We create wallets for them. Absolutely. So when they're ready, they can go and look at the engine and start unpacking it, right?
It's honestly comparable to the early days of the internet. Again, that's why I always find this fascinating. Like I remember my brother and I were tinkerers. So my dad got us into computers. Nice. So I remember we had our old desktop and we went there was we had this little mall that had just computer parts. It's kind of like a giant Radio Shack. And I remember we bought this modem, and then we went and we installed it, and then we put the phone wire in, and then we called the phone company and we sorted it out, and then we had internet at our house. And we're like, wow. We fixed this ourselves. And back then there was nobody, had internet. And I remember we built our first website, same thing. It was from a book that I was reading step by step, how to build your site. So I was able to build the front end, but I had no idea how to put it on the internet yet. And I couldn't find more materials to read on it. But I remember those days, there was a lot of tinkerers all around the world. They were tinkering, they were playing, they were doing applications. Yeah. So this is the case today with Web3, that the tinkerers, but now it's no more hardware. It's all software. Based, right? and they're playing around, they're tinkering around, and mass adoption will only come if something like Microsoft comes, for what it did for computer interfaces. For example, he went from DOS system to actually being, or Apple as well, obviously. Apple was the first, but Microsoft took it mainstream, I guess.
Microsoft would argue that Apple stole that idea and all that, but that's always fun of it,
that was basically it. So the interface made it so accessible to everyone.
Exactly.
And I feel it's the same thing right now. Accessibility is the biggest challenge.
And it's UX and UX design, right? Like, look at the smartphone. Like, we know what swiping is, and we all scroll with our fingers. Like, there's these now heuristic movements that we do, and we expect, right? So when you're building as well, and it's the same in design or advertisement or wherever, like, you expect to close a window top right. You don't go bottom left or bottom right. Like, that's good UX UI, is you build on familiarity and expectations. So then we don't have to think as much. We just know, oh yeah, I can just swipe, or I can click there. Oh yeah, well, it did it in this game, so it must be that in this game. Oh, it is. Don't reinvent the wheel. And that's a really...
muscle memory.
Yeah, muscle memory. And it's a real big part of what we did in Web3, or in the early days that we afforded. Is just like, we're trying to cram people into Web3, right? That's not how you get people into Web3. We need to meet them in Web 2 and take them on a journey into Web 3. We need to transition them and build up their confidence, build up their experience, educate them, and bring them into Web 2.5, like a transitional state, right? Which is where you can decide whether you want to go off-chain or on-chain. And then if you want to go in, you can go fully in, and give them the agency and choice of doing it themselves, because nobody likes to be forced to do something, right? So you got, and that's the thing, again, in the beginning, or with games, like, traditional gamers are really still against this tokenization and digital asset ownership. But it's also because I think they've been told wrong. Like, when Ubisoft came out and did their thing, I remember can't remember who he was, but one of their like chief communicators came out and just said, yeah, but people don't know yet. Like, he had this really weird response, and don't quote me on it, but it was a bad response, because it really was. And it just pissed people even more off, rather than he could have come out in a more humble way and just going, look, we're trying something new for the future. This is going to be big. We implore people to try it out. We want to be like, there's ways of kind of delivering a message and not,
coming off as like a know-it-all. Nobody likes that.
No. Because we can all be wrong at the end of the day, right? But I think one thing's for sure is, digital asset ownership's here to stay. Cryptocurrency is here to stay. This Web3 thing is not just a fad. It's here. It's coming. The metaverse is that's a tangible outcome of Web3, is also something which will come. It's going to take time. But yeah, I mean, these are things, and this is just where we'll get there.
Yeah, we're definitely on the way, and I think we're seeing it already. Like, as you said, like, I keep quoting this, and it's probably now more. It's like 43 brands of the 100 top interbrands, valued brands in the world already launched projects in the NFT space. And I'm seeing more and more. We're based in Station F in Paris, and there's a lot of luxury brands there. And now I'm seeing a lot of titles popping up, like Chief Community Officer, Chief, Web3 Officer,
Metaverse Officer, right?
Metaverse Officer as well, of course. Yeah. So these roles are popping up, and they're popping up because they realize that Web3 gives them, I think, a new paradigm to engage consumers with. Especially think of yourself as let's take an example of L'Oreal. You sell luxury products, right? Makeup, they have a group of different brands. There's perfumes, all sorts of products, but they don't have necessarily direct consumer relationship because they don't sell them on their website. You have to go to like Carrefour or a supermarket they contract with,
a retailer,
or a department store. Yeah, exactly, a retailer. And so this is the first time where they were like, hold on a second, we can issue tokens that we can engage consumers directly. We can have, this more intimate relationship. And the same thing with car manufacturers, other than Tesla. Most likely you're buying your Volkswagen or BMW or Audi at a retailer. Again, you don't have direct relationship with the manufacturer. And this is an opportunity to actually communicate directly, get that 0 seconds to feedback from your biggest fans.
Thought you were going to say zero code there for a second, but
No, that's your quote. No. I don't want to plug my
You should.
brand in every episode.
We should plug it every time. No, but no, that's absolutely right. It's this consumer touch points direct with the brands, right? And you get, it's just a stronger narrative. It's a stronger community. It's more. It's just more for the users and the buyers and the owners, like being able to affiliate closer and more strongly with your brand. I mean, people love wearing their Nike high tops, or they like wearing their, whether they drive a Ferrari or they play golf, they got the Fitliest hat, or if they drive a Sunday Ferrari, they got the Ferrari hat, or, there's clout and there's expression of self involved with this brand affiliation. And to be able to be, as a brand like L'Oreal, to have a direct line to your consumer, like you said, feedback straight away. They get to know their audience even better. They can build around that and build with that, as well as it gives the consumer also a direct line back. Now they're not talking through a middleman. They're straight involved with the product that they love, and an emotional, engaging experience, right? And an emotional attachment, which is powerful.
And I think this brings a really good point then. And this is how I see, at least, Web3 interactions between brands and consumers are different than Web2. In Web2, we got used to them. There's good stories, of course. They bring bloggers, they bring celebrities, they bring all these type of collaborations. All that stuff exists. But here, on the other hand, it's kind of like a more intimate relationship where you have to speak to the lifestyle that your brand represents rather than the logo, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're Patagonia, for example, hypothetically, and they decide to do their Web3 community, hint, then you could easily reach out to environmentally friendly, forward-thinking people, and then you can cultivate them under one cause, help more philanthropic, is that right? Efforts together to protect the environment, right? And you can cultivate that tribe, right? That we're all united. Yeah, Patagonia is putting us together because they have the resources and the brand and the swag to do so. But then we are a community of forward-thinking people. How do you find your Zrun community in comparison? You have a community. Do you have Z heads?
Yeah,
what do they call them?
Exactly, they're Z heads. Very original name, but no, we call them Z heads. But they're just people who love the game and they see the promise in the game as well. I mean, and that's the thing. I think what's really important is that we're providing an experience of fun, an experience of excitement, an experience of entertainment. Right? We are an entertainment studio first. We are, I'm an old storyteller, gamer by heart, filmmaker, and I think entertainment is key. People want to have fun, right? And there's an old quote I use a lot as well: is people vote with their feet and they will go where their fun is. So if you go to a house party, everybody's in the kitchen because that's where it's going off, right? So then you walk into the kitchen, or if you're walking down a busy street and you see people all in that restaurant, but not that restaurant, which restaurant are you going to pick? You're going to pick the one with the people in it, right? So similarly with games is you got to make sure that there's stickiness and retention involved, where it's fun and it's fun to come back. And then creating that community vibe. I mean, it is fun rivaling others and racing others and talking, smack. That's what sports is great about. It's the banter that comes around it as well. Or even if you're gaming, right? You're not just gaming. If you're playing a one-player game, you're alone. But if you're playing with or versus something, there's always a little bit of banter along the way and competition. And competition kind of brings the best and the worst out of people, I guess. But we focus on the best. And our communities. They're amazing, man. They're very vocal, a lot of them, but they've been along for a long ride. I mean, we just had our 4th year birthday of Zrun, which is crazy to think, right? 4 years in the space.
Congratulations!
And thanks, and the space is still young. It's still early days. So, hence, again, to get the masses on board and to grow our community, we do community events. We do partnerships with Budweiser, we do partnerships with NASCAR. We've got a lot of other things. We do in real life events as well, because I think it's important that people meet up as well when possible. So the humans behind the stable names, or the humans behind the digital horses, or the Twitter handle can meet. And, amazing friendships are formed. And, when I'm able to make those events, I'd love to kind of go around and just chat with them, because we're all, at the end of the day, we're all human. We all breathe the same air, bleed the same blood, hopefully, have the same morals and love for one another. And I think that's super important, because you've seen that in entertainment, you've seen that in sports. It actually brings birds of a feather together. And I think that's a super, super powerful and really important. Again, we were talking earlier on how time is your most valuable asset, health, mentally, and your health and mental health and your physical health is also based on the third one, which is your friends and your social environment, right? Who are you hanging out with? And all these things supersede the one that people think is the most important, which is money, which is way further down the list. So yeah, a bit of a, I guess, yeah, a bit of a deeper thought there.
One of the things that I've noticed that when I got into the Web3 space was during the COVID lockdowns. Times were tough. You were not able to meet and travel and see your friends and loved ones as much. And this is, for me, was my entry point into Web3 communities where NFTs were happening. I'm like, why is everyone like jumping to the Bored Apes Yacht Club? What's the big buzz about? And they're like, oh, it's a private community. I'm like, so what? And then I started exploring other projects and I'm like, oh, well, I like, for example, I like reggae music. So I find, a reggae project and now I can like be part of this community that likes reggae music. Or I'm into cooking. There's a community for that. And the gating aspect, just having an avatar was cool for me. I didn't go for the expensive projects. I went for the project that I want to use that avatar as mine and then 100%. Connect with other people in that community and talk to them and engage with them. So for me, it was really, honestly, crypto packaged goods was like one of the NFTs that I bought early on because I'm a builder, I'm an entrepreneur. So I wanted to be part of a community of builders and entrepreneurs. So I joined and I started interacting with everyone. And I made so many good friends. And for me, the metaverse was at that point was my apartment that I was in and my computer screen and the chats that we were having on Telegram and then jumping onto calls like this, and just meeting people from around the world, building stuff and collaborating.
That's it.
And it kicked it off, I think. I think the world is much closer today because of COVID, really.
Yeah. And because the digital technology is able to put us so close. Like I was able to live in Australia for 17 years away from friends and family. And tell you what, nothing's changed ever since coming back. I mean, they're all the same. But we will also be able to keep tabs thanks to social media applications, right? Sharing stories, sharing pictures, chatting on WhatsApp or in different, channels. Like it's empowering us to stay connected, right? And yes, there's an argument to say that we're more disconnected in some ways because we're just looking at the phone and getting lost in feeds. That's true. There has to be a balance and there has to be some kind of self-regulation. But like what you're saying, it's not new. Like whether if I wear a Manchester United jersey or FC Barcelona jersey, there's a community for me. I can put that on, walk in somewhere, and I can meet birds of my feather, right? Like birds of my flock, right? And it's been like that for ages, whether I want to go to a cooking class or a book reading club or go to church, right? Religion is also a very powerful medium, which is a strong narrative, which brings people together, right? And that's amazing. That's beautiful. People flock together and they have a good time, and again, it's one of the most important things in that hierarchy of what's important to you. It's socializing and being around people you want to be around because we lift each other up. So,
final remarks here. This has been really a great hour with Chris, hour plus. Learned a lot about the gaming industry, learned a lot about what Zedron is doing, and getting someone who's very seasoned in really community building and just an overall amazing genius and creative person. So I'm very happy to have you with us. But I just want to say, what's next for Chris? What are you doing now? And any shout outs?
So thank you for the first of humbling words. I am but just another man. So I get very flattered easily, but at the same time, awesome discussion. It got a little philosophical at the end there, which is great. That's the way I like to do it. I'm creative, so I wear my I wear my passion on my sleeves. Basically, I wear my feelings on my sleeves, and I think that's super important when you are creating and building projects is having that kind of empathy and emotion behind it. What's next for me? I mean, I'm still, working with Virtually Human, and I'm evangelizing, focused on education. I'm also working with other projects, which is super exciting. Dare I announce that I am coming on board and helping you, Sanad, and the team with Zero Code. So I'm super excited about that because, again, our conversation has spanned since May last year, and we've built a really strong relationship. Obviously, there's a lot of synergies just through this conversation. I think people will know and can tell that there's there's love for one another, and I really just think, you know, the product that you are building, you and Iman and the team, is a special one, and it's one that it fits within those pillars that I mentioned. You know, you are empowering creativity, and you're, you know, driving prosperity and fostering inclusivity with it. So I think those are the three key things for me that tick on a great project, and I can't wait to kind of help push that. And I'm also, you know, working in the education space, consulting, and I'm doing a lot of other things. So, you know, if anybody's looking to get into this space, you know, feel free to reach out. Of course, always happy to share thoughts, ideas. You know, it's not just on us to build, it's on everyone. You know, there's room for everyone. This is an infinite digital space, the metaverse, Web3. There's new opportunities, and I think, you know, any way we can help onboard brands into the space, the faster. You know, again, giving them the education and then the experience and then the confidence to take it, to get in there successfully and help spread the word. You know, each one reach one, each one teach one. Then the sooner we do it, the sooner the masses will come, and the sooner we'll actually be in Web3. I still believe we're in this transitional Web 2.5 space, if you ask me. But yeah, that's it. And then just thanks for having me, brother. Like, super excited to be here, and yeah, can't wait to do more.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was amazing interview. One of my favorites. I mean, I'm still early, but everyone was great so far. But I really loved the topics that we covered. So thank you for taking the time, and thank you for jumping on board the Zero Code
adventure.
Rocket.
Yeah, exactly. To the moon, baby. No, for sure. No. We got a lot of work ahead of us, for sure. Which is, I love it. I mean, if there's no challenge, then there's no reward. So let's go. Let's build this baby, and introduce the world to it.